Hello again, I'm Cliff, N4CCB. You know, one of the most popular videos I've made so far was called Some QRP Radios, and it showed 5 radios that were in production and still are. If you haven't seen that video, you might want to click this link to go watch that now. I'm back this time with 5 more QRP radios, and they are the CRK10A for, it's a kit for $55, the MFJ 9296, which is a 6-band radio for $230, the LNR Precision version of Steve Weber's Mountain Topper, the 3-band version for $260, the 5-band version of the Mountain Topper, the LNR Precision sells for $380, and the new, as of this recording, Elecraft KX2, which starts at $750, plus options that can take it up from there. So in this video, I'm going to go through all of these. I'm going to give you my opinions and tell you a little bit about each radio. And let's get started with the CRK10A. The CRK10A is offered as a kit. It's $55, and I don't remember how many days it took to get it, but it wasn't very long. It's a neat little kit in that you can start building it after breakfast, and by lunchtime have a fully functional radio. So in that respect, it's a great kit if you want to get some friends together to build something in one sitting. You can actually build a functional transceiver in one sitting with this. And the case is beautiful, the finish is beautiful on this. 3-hole construction, so no surface mount parts to have to worry about. Puts out about 3 watts. When you order it, you can order it for 40 meters or 30 meters. Now, one thing about this is it's rock bound. In other words, there's a crystal in here. It can only transmit on one frequency. So when you order this, you have your choice of 6 different frequencies on the 40 meter band, 2 frequencies on the 30 meter band. And that's kind of a big limitation of this radio. So you can only transmit on one frequency. Of course, if the professor had this on Gilligan's Island, they would have been off the island in one day. So this thing could save your life, but it is limited to one frequency. So that's quite a limitation. Another thing about this radio is it's got a very wide filter, wide passband. So when you're listening to a CW conversation, you can hear multiple conversations going on at the same time. Whereas a lot of CW radios have a very, a narrow filter, maybe 600 hertz or so. This one probably has 2 kilohertz or 3 kilohertz maybe. I haven't measured it, but it is very noticeable that it's a very wide passband. I'm going to do a quick demo to show you how wide filtered the CRK10A is. Now we're listening right now, in just a second, to this Mountain Topper. This is the 5-band version, and you can see that the frequency here, as soon as it focuses, is 7.030, which is the same frequency as the crystal that's over here in the CRK10A. So I'm going to move the camera up here to the speaker so you can listen. You can hear a couple of stations, but they're kind of outside the filter of the MTR5B. So now I'm going to unplug the antenna from here. Bear with me for a sec. Plug it into the CRK10A. Now that I've done that, I'm going to unplug the speaker and plug it into the phone's jack here in the front. Hear that? So the signals you're hearing are lower and higher than what's in the middle of the MTR5B. I'm going to go reverse this, put this antenna back. Pardon me for the blackout there. Put the speaker back into the speaker jack of this radio. So you can barely hear a station up above. I'm going to tune this so that you can see that it's not just a sensitivity issue. I'm actually going to change the frequency down here while I'm listening. If we look at this, we're just a little below it. So, huge difference. Huge difference. Much easier to listen to the mountain topper. So that's going to be fatiguing if you try to use this radio over a long amount of time, trying to focus on somebody you're listening to with all these other distracting conversations going on. So bear that in mind. But, you know, for what it is, it's wonderful. It was enhanced by the same Chinese ham who designed the U-Kit's HB1A, HB1B radios. More power output than a Rock might, better keying characteristics. So it's just a cool little radio. I do recommend this. It's only $55. I mean, how can you go wrong? And you can build it in one sitting, which is pretty amazing. But you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of a toy. I mean, yeah, it could save your life for sure, but it's a radio that you're going to build and enjoy for a little while, and then probably put it on the shelf and not use it very often. So in that respect, it's cool, and I do recommend it. But it's not going to be the radio that you use a lot. $55 CRK10A. Recommended. Next up is the MFJ 9296. The MFJ 9296 is a bargain. Now, is this a great radio? No, it's not a great radio. But it's a good radio, and it does an awful lot. It's CW only, like the rest of these radios here, except the KX2. But it's got 6 bands. Now, you can buy the MFJ 9200 radio and pick a single band for $200. And additional bands are $30 a piece. So by the time you've bought that radio and 2 modules, you've already spent the same as if you just gone ahead and bought this and have all 6 bands. 80, 40, 30, 20, 17, and 15. It has thumb screws in the back and little plug-in modules. Now, every time I've ever taken these screws out, until this video, I've dropped the thumb screws. So if you get this radio, you might want to go ahead and order some extra thumb screws, because it's just a matter of time before you're using this thing in the field and one of those thumb screws goes in the grass and you'll never see it again. But inside here are these little boards. And like I said, this one comes with 6 of these. I'll put a photograph up on the screen here. And there are 6 of these, 1 for each band. So it's easily field replaceable, although you do have to watch out for those screws. Puts out about 5 watts on each band, and it works like a champ. You're going to have no problem making contacts with this, and you know, because it has all 6 bands for such a low price, it's the best bargain on the table probably. I really don't know of a 6-band 5-watt QRP radio that costs $230 or less besides this guy. Has a direct digital synthesized VFO. So, you know, VFO knob here. Doesn't have RF gain, but it does have an attenuation button that drops at 20 dB, I think. It only draws about 40 milliamps on receive without the backlight. With the backlit display on, 80 milliamps. It's got 8 memory channels per band. A very capable radio. It is CW only, but you can listen to upper sideband or lower sideband, and when you're in those modes, it gives you a 2.5 kilohertz wide filter. So that's pretty nice. Don't know what else to say about this radio. It's one thing that bothers me about it is that the tuning is limited to 100 hertz. So if you're trying to zero beat another station, at best, well, worst case, you'll be 50 hertz off, right? Because you get within 50 hertz of it since it's 100 hertz resolution. But that kind of bothers me. I'm kind of a stickler for wanting to zero beat somebody. And oddly enough, if you go into RIT mode, they give you 10 hertz resolution in RIT mode. which really doesn't help you zero beat anybody, but it gets the frequency that you want to hear within 10 hertz of what you want to hear. So not really sure why it was designed that way, but I'm sure there's a good technical reason. Anyway, this is a neat little radio, and I do recommend it. $230 for 6 bands, pretty hard to beat. MFJ 9296. Next up, we're going to talk about the 3-band mountain topper. The MTR-3B is L&R Precision's build of the Steve Weber mountain topper radio. Now, I've got another video that I made about how to use this, pretty in-depth video. If you care about this radio, you might want to go check out this link and go watch that video to see practically everything you'd ever want to know about this radio. This radio weighs 4.5 ounces. It is ridiculously small. L&R Precision builds it for you. It's got all surface mount parts inside here. You certainly could build one of these, and you can build one of these from a kit. But for $260, this is a cool radio. Definitely shirt pocket size. It puts out about 3 watts, 3 bands, 40 meters, 30 meters, and 20 meters. And you choose the band by using this kind of quirky approach of setting these 3 switches to the same position. So there's 40, put them all in the same position in the middle, that's 30 meters. Put them all over here on the right side, that's 20 meters. Trail friendly, meaning that the controls are up here at the top. Same as with the MFJ 9296. Little quirky. It's got everything you need and nothing that you don't need. Actually, it's got some things that you think you need that you really don't. And that's part of the quirkiness of it. So it's got no volume control. The volume is limited, so it can never be louder than it's limited to be. However, that might be too loud. In my case, for the headphones I was using, the impedance that they were, it's really too loud. So I bought an inline volume control, which costs less than $10. And then I plug that into the radio and then my headphones into that. So I have a little thumb wheel volume control for this. It does have an RCA jack for the antenna, which is unusual. But you can easily buy an RCA to BNC or RCA to SO239 and just use regular coax with that for your antenna. Runs on 6 to 12 volts. Now 12 volts max, so you can't plug it into your 13.8 volt power supply. You can run it from a 9 volt battery, although that would get expensive after a while. I use 8 AA rechargeable batteries. I have nickel metal hydride batteries, and 8 of those gives me a long run time at about 10 volts, 10.5 volts, something like that. Initially more than 11, but then it kind of backs down. You can see what the battery voltage is. There's a menu function here that'll let you see what the current voltage is. And it does have one LED digit here. So for looking at the battery voltage, you press this function key combination and it shows you one digit at a time. So 10.8 volts would be 10, 0, a decimal, and then 8. Same thing for frequency display. You press this function button and it's going to tell you the frequency one digit at a time. So you can accomplish everything you want to accomplish with this radio, but there are definitely some limitations that were placed on it in order to make it so small and backpackable, hikeable. But this is a very cool radio, and I've had so much fun with this radio. L&R Precision has used the video that I made of this on their website. That's how gushy I was about it. I guess they saw that and decided to pick it up, which is fine with me. But this is a really cool radio. What else can I tell you about it? It's got direct digital frequency entry, so you can push a key combination here, and then in your paddles, go to the certain frequency that you want. Otherwise, you've got to use the up and down buttons to go through the different frequencies. There is no VFO knob on this radio. Another quirk. But again, it's something that you don't really need, you just think you need it, because holding down these buttons will let you scan about 1K per second through the band that you want to scan through. So I don't know what else to say about this little guy. It's cool. It's very cool, and I've worked DX with it. And you can make an incredibly small package ham station just in a Ziploc baggie with this radio and a battery and a wire antenna. So very cool. L&R Precision MTR 3B. $260 and well worth it. Next up, the 5N version. When Steve Weber designed the 5-band version of the Mountain Topper, he really hit it out of the park. This is quirky. Like the Mountain Topper, the 3-band version, it's got these switches here. So in this case, it's got 6 switches to change bands. It's got 5 bands. If all these switches over here are set on the left side, that you're on 40 meters. If they're in the middle, you're on 30 meters. If they're on the right side, then it defers to these 3 switches. And in that case, if they're over here, you're on 20 meters. If they're in the middle, you're on 17. And if they're on the far right, you're on 15 meters. So one of the greatest things about this radio, besides it being ridiculously small and having 5 bands, it's got an LCD display. Whereas this radio only had 1 digit at a time, this has a very nice display. And it shows you your current frequency at all times, shows you the battery voltage. It shows you the clock. It's got a built-in real-time clock with battery backup. Like this radio, it's got RIT, it's got 3 CW message memories. It just does so much, but it's in a very compact, very tough package. A couple things they improved on, besides what I've mentioned already. This does have a BNC jack, so you don't have to worry about having an RCA to BNC adapter. Although you still might want to get an SO239 adapter if you're using regular kind of coax with this radio to your antenna. Puts out 2 to 5 watts depending on the voltage. Like this radio, 6 to 12 volts max. So don't try to run this with a normal power supply. I use a battery pack just like I do with this. 8 AA's. Works great for me and it runs a long time. I think I've given you all the highlights. It has all of the functionality of this radio, just an extra couple of bands, a great LCD display that lets you see at a glance some information that you have to kind of work 1 digit at a time to see with this radio. So $380 from L&R Precision. A very cool, hikeable, DXable, fun little rig to take on a vacation or while you're out riding your bike or whatever. So L&R Precision MTR 5B. Definitely recommended. Which leaves us with the last radio I'm going to talk about today, the Elecraft KX2. The Elecraft KX2 was announced the day before Dayton this year, in May of 2016. It is such a cool radio, guys. It's about half the volume of a KX3, which is already a small radio. Very comparable to a KX1 in size. You can see how it compares to these other radios. It's just a little bigger than this CW only radio, but this radio has 80 meters, 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. Does not have 160 meters, does not have 6 meters. But it's got all those other bands. It's got sideband and CW and data. Doesn't have AM. Unlike the KX3 that has an optional 4 meter or 2 meter module for FM, that's not available for the KX2. So no FM, no AM. No IQ outputs like the KX3, so you can't use this to run a pan adapter. Although you could certainly use it with the 100 watt amp that Elecraft sells to make this and a 100 watt amp be the equivalent of a nice 100 watt base station. It has a internal antenna tuner as an option. Now, the way Elecraft prices their radios is sort of like the car manufacturers. You see on TV where you've got this wonderful car and it starts at $25,000, but as shown, it's $38,000. Well, that's kind of like Elecraft. You can get this radio for $750. For $750, you get this radio with no battery, no microphone, no key. But if you've already got an Elecraft microphone, external battery, key that you're happy with, all that, $750 gets you this radio. The internal antenna tuner is $180. The internal lithium-ion battery is $60, I think, and the charger for that's $25. The microphone's extra too. So you put all that together, and you end up with spending about $1,100 or so. But for $750, you can get this radio and join what my friend Tim calls the Cool Kids Club. It really is a great radio, and I'm really digging it. The thing, it's kind of silly, but the thing that's helped me the most is the internal battery. I no longer have to carry an external battery and a power cable when I carry another radio. It's just all in here. And you get about 8 hours of battery use from this lithium-ion battery that's in here. Now, you do have to take it out of the case to charge it, but that's no big deal. Got a couple of thumb screws here. You just loosen those, pull the back off, and there's the battery. You can just take the battery and unclip it and connect this to the charger, and in an hour or two, you've got a fresh battery. Very lightweight. It's about half the volume of a KX3. May have already said that. So small and so self-contained that the only thing you need with this is just an antenna and maybe a microphone or a little key. But this can do everything, including data. The KX3 has the ability for you to use the key to actually send RIDI or PSK31, and this does the same thing. You can also hook your computer up to it, like I do, and use computer software to send a PSK31 or JT65 or whatever. So such a small radio, so capable that it could be somebody's only radio. It's an amazing little radio, and I was so thrilled when Eric Schwartz announced it at the 4 Days in May event this year. It was just came out of nowhere, seemed like, and nobody was expecting it, and it just blew us all away. What else should I tell you about this radio? I think I've covered everything pretty much. It does put out up to 10 watts. It doesn't have a weighted tuning knob like the KX3 does. And because the front panel has fewer buttons than the KX3, there are some things that you have to go into the menu to access, like RF gain, for example. There's no button on the front for RF gain like there is on the KX3, but it's really easily accessible via menu choice. And actually there's a programmable function key here. When you're in the menu, you can just pick any of those parameters and then push this programmable function key button and assign that menu choice to this button. So you're one button click away from whatever parameter that you wish you had on the front panel that it doesn't have by default. So not sure what else to say about this. Fantastic little radio that I'm digging. I love every radio. It might seem kind of absurd to have 10 QRP radios, but imagine it's a lot cheaper than having an RV, a boat, a jet ski, a motorcycle, or paying alimony. So I don't feel too badly about that. So let's wrap up. $55 CRK10A, MFJ 9296 for $230. The 3-band version of the Mountain Topper for $260. The 6-band version with a lot of cool improvements for $380, and then the Elecraft KX2 starting at $750. I hope I've given you a little information about these, enough to whet your appetite and dig a little deeper into one of these that might suit you. And until next time, thanks for watching.